Okay, thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, members of the public, staff, and council. Welcome to our Monday, May 16th council meeting. I'd call the meeting to order. Moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the May 16th, 2022 regular council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:01 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. I'll now ask everyone to stand for the playing of our national anthem. All right, moving on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments, Madam Clerk?
Yes, and through you, Mr. Mayor, we have an item to add under closed session under exemption E, litigation or potential litigation, specifically potential litigation. We also have an item that's been requested to be pulled from information only into other business for discussion, that being item 7DH, the letter regarding the Williamstown Fair request.
Okay, thank you. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Luck.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to declare on 7AB as I work with EVB Engineering and I have worked on Place Saint Laurent Phase 5 in the past.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to 5, approval of the minutes. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the minutes of the May 2nd, 2022 council meeting, including closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Rebecca Luck. Be it resolved that the minutes of the May 2nd public meeting be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Alrighty, moving on to presentations and delegations. There are none this evening. New business, 7A, staff reports. Procedural bylaw, first and second reading. Ms. Compo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Council will recall at our May 2nd meeting, you received an information report proposing several amendments to our procedural bylaw, as well as a draft bylaw. That same bylaw is before you this evening for a first and second reading. I didn't receive any feedback from council requesting any further changes to the bylaw. So what's before you this evening for the first and second reading is the same draft you received on May 2nd. Subject to any further comments from council, this bylaw will come before you for a third and final reading at our next meeting on June 6th.
Okay, great. Any questions or comments of staff or council? Seeing none, that's pretty straightforward. Moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that staff report 62-2022 be received, and that bylaw 33-2022, being a bylaw to govern the calling, place, and proceedings of council, be read a first and second time this 16th day of May 2022. And before I go to the vote, please have any comments to the clerk well before our next meeting. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7AB, McNairn Drain, filing of engineer's report. Ms. Compo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and again through you. Council will recall at our April 4th meeting that there was an extension granted to McIntosh Perry to prepare an engineer's report on the McNairn Drain. The report had been delayed from, it was originally put forward by resolution, I believe, in 2018, and there's a year to complete that report. However, due to several factors, there were some delays, and so it was, an extension was required. The draft report has now been prepared and is attached to this report for council's review. And the next step in this process, should council choose to receive or choose to proceed, is for council to pass a resolution to proceed on the report. After that time, a meeting to consider the report will be held and a notice will be sent to all affected property owners so that they may attend that meeting, which is currently scheduled to take place on June 6th, should council decide to proceed. The notices have not been sent out yet. That's subject to your approval this evening. Once that meeting has been held, that it'll come back to council for a final time to adopt the report. Subject to any questions, and unfortunately our drainage engineer was away right now, and I can't, I'm not a drainage expert, but maybe Sarah can help me out if we get stuck. But what's before you tonight is simply a resolution to have that meeting with the property owners for them to see the draft report. It will come back to you again for a final approval.
Okay, thank you for that, Madam Clerk. Are there any questions or comments of members of council? It's a very detailed and technical report, so it's a little dry reading. Okay, seeing none. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 63-2022 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry acknowledges receipt of the McNairn Drain Engineer's report, and furthermore that Council wishes to proceed on the report and directs the clerk to provide notice to the prescribed persons pursuant to section 41(1) of the Drainage Act. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Okay, it's going pretty fast. 7AA, Agreement, HGC Management, Mr. Mills.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Through you, good evening, council, members of the general public that are here and watching, and staff. The purpose of the staff report tonight is to bring before you the agreement with HGC Management. Approximately a month ago, almost a month ago, HGC Management assumed recycling and waste collection for the township. Previously, they had provided waste collection services for the township for a number of years. The transition to the new service provider did not result in changes to the service, so it's, except for what we had changed when we brought in the new service was weekly garbage and weekly recycling. Also, we've recently had yard waste pickup, and we will have a big items pickup coming up, so watch your social media for what you can put in big pickup and what you can't. In order to finalize and validate the agreement between the township and HGC Management, council must authorize entering into the contract by resolution, which has been previously discussed. Of note that it will not cost anything more, if anything less, to the corporation. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CAO. Are there any questions or comments of council members? Seeing none, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam McDonnell. Be resolved that staff report 64-2022 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby confirms authorization for administration to enter into an agreement with HGC Management, and furthermore the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7AD, Vaccination Verification Policy. May review, Mr. CAO.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, through you. As council will remember, there have been a number of presentations on the vaccination policy. Last October, we adopted the policy 06-2021 at the recommendation of the Medical Officer of Health. As of April 27th, a few weeks ago, the Government of Ontario lifted all public health orders. It's quite noticeable around the community. If you go anywhere, there's not much mask wearing anymore, for example. We've continued to monitor their situation as administration and throughout the province. At the April 18th council meeting, we reviewed a staff report which came through administrative staff to look at the policy again. It was decided at that time through council to maintain the policy. The council should just recognize a few things, and we have talked about these. We're required to, under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, to take every reasonable precaution to protect workers, including from hazards posed by infectious disease, so that's COVID. Due to our small workforce, at times if there was to be another outbreak, we could end up being short-staffed, although to this point through the whole pandemic, there have been times certainly we've dealt with it, but we've been able to step up and cover for one another and provide service, which includes, for example, in the roads department with the winter we had especially with the snow in March and April, we got through it well. I see infrastructure, GM, McDonald's smiling over there. It wasn't an easy winter, but we got through it. At present, all employees, as I had mentioned before, were compliant with the policy, part-time and full-time, and seasonal. We do, though, have 10 firefighters are inactive due to non-compliance, and rescinding the policy would allow a return to duty for 10 firefighters. Regardless, council needs to take into account that the risk is still out there. COVID is still in the community. I did want to mention something, though, that the Medical Officer of Health did use the term blunted in the region, that COVID-19 sixth wave seems to have leveled off. And so in his weekly update yesterday, Dr. Paul did note that we seem to have been weathering this wave well, but of note, it's not the first wave, it's the sixth wave. So council, again, on behalf of administration, I'm bringing forward recommendations that you have 3 options. To rescind policy 0621, being the vaccination verification policy. Rescind policy 06-2021, being the vaccination verification policy, effective May 30th, 2022. I'd like to comment on that if we rescind something today and we have 10 firefighters and we're looking at, I had talked with Fire Chief Robertson about if we're going to return some people to work, if it's a decision, we need a little bit of time to work through that. It can't just be tomorrow. Or that the policy remains in place. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Tim. As noted at our second meeting in April that we would review it in 1 month's time, here we are. I'm opening it to the floor for discussion. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So at this point, my choice would be option A, but given the information Mr. Mills gave, I would be content with option B to give the fire department time to accommodate these new returns of the new return of employees who've been off.
So option B? Okay. Councillor Lang, then Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
I'll agree. I think it's time. Option B.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden, I have a question for CAO Mills. At the last time we looked at this, you had provided some information on what other municipalities were doing, and I don't know if anything has changed with regards to what's happening in the region. in terms of the other municipalities?
I don't have that right in front of me, but nothing has changed. South Stormont, for example, is rescinded. The city of Cornwall has kept, as have the counties. City of Cornwall has required the testing to continue. I'm not sure about the counties. North Dundas would rescind. North Glengarry kept the policy. So I got 5 out of 6 off the top of my head, not bad. Ottawa rescinded the policy.
Okay. Councillor Luck, did you have any questions or comments?
Yes, actually, for the medical officer of health, he said that we were weathering the wave, albeit the 6th wave. Did he have any recommendations for municipalities? Like, I know he left it open to municipalities for making this decision, but coming from the medical officer of health, did he have any recommendations?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the medical officer of health makes recommendations and or provides the statistics, and he leaves it up to municipalities to decide. So Dr. Paul has not changed his opinions and or stance that vaccination policies should be considered for municipalities and other public organizations. But it's
Yep.
up, so I'm just further, but it's up to us to decide whether we're keeping it or not, us being council.
Councillor Luck?
Thank you, Mr. Mills, and through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to go with option C. I think that we are weathering the wave well. However, until I hear from the medical chief officer of health saying, a recommendation to rescind it, I am of the opinion of keeping it in place.
Deputy Mayor?
I think Councillor Luck said that very well, so I support her in
So
option
it's
C.
going to fall to me. There's a first for everything. I'm going to err on the side of caution and go with option C. But again, commit to reviewing this in a month's time. Yes, we'll do a recorded vote, Councillor Mactonell. But I just, you know what, let's be cautious, because it wasn't that long ago that a few in this room had COVID, and so I'm going to err on the side of caution this time. So, Madam Clerk, would you please do a recorded vote as Mr. Mactonell's request? I could read his mind.
I'll just formalize it. I'd like to request a formal recorded vote.
Certainly. Mr. Mayor, do you want to read the resolution
Sure.
first, reading through to
Yep.
option C?
Yep. Moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Rebecca Luck. Be it resolved that staff report 65-2022 be received, and that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry choose option C, direct that policy 06-2022, being the vaccination verification policy, remain in place until further review. And could I add in 1 month's time to that? So I'll let you proceed with the recorded.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of council. When I call on you, please state your vote yay or nay. Councillor Luck,
A.
Councillor McDonnell,
No.
Councillor Lang,
Nay.
and Deputy Mayor Jaworski,
In favor?
and Mayor Warden.
Yay.
Thank you.
All righty, thank you very much. Moving on to item 7AE, Regional Incentive Program Agreement. Ms. Haley.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the purpose of this staff report before you this evening is because the United Counties received an application for the Regional Incentive Program for a property in South Glengarry that's located at 5857 Glenbrook Road and just outside of Williamstown, and it's known as La Ferme, but à la Bain Ferme. I don't know how to say that properly. I apologize. Oh, thank you. I don't know if I would have, obviously I didn't get that perfectly. So the purpose of this application was to fund property improvements to the property. And the main improvements that were being granted was a natural pathway from the driveway to the existing bed and breakfast, as well as the flagstone property, improvements to the stairs, fire pit, and I understand a portion of a septic system upgrade. And all of this is to improve a agritourism, bed and breakfast kind of tourist destination in the township. This agreement was approved by County Council in October of 2021. And we're not sure what happened, but it was brought to our attention last week that it hadn't been brought through council and signed. So we put it on this agenda. So we are recommending to council to accept the staff report and to allow the mayor and clerk to be authorized to sign all relevant documents. If this is approved this evening, then this allows the dollars from the United Counties to flow through South Glengarry and allows South Glengarry's treasurer to then pay the recipient of the grant. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Haley. This is a great little venture. I have the pleasure of sitting on the RIP and the CIP committee at the county level, and what they're proposing to do on this property is great, and I think it fits really well with the program. And we've also, I believe, tentatively approved another grant this year under a tourism side of things for an event there. So things are happening at this place, and I hope council will support it. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the staff report 66-2022 be received, and that the corporation of the Township of South Glengarry enter into a regional incentive program financial agreement with La Ferme Botte et la Bin Farm, located, I did worse than Ms. Haley, 5857 Glenbrook Road. And furthermore, that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign all relevant documents. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Okay. And moving on to 7AF. Tree canopy and natural vegetation policy, third reading, Ms. Haley.
Okay, so thank you. So as you are aware, we've been working on this policy for a little over 3 years. I think the last time I was here, I said 2 years, and I realized that much more time had passed than that. So the purpose of the staff report before you this evening is to consider third reading on the policy. I did have a chance to hear from members of council, and I received some good feedback to improve the wording of the policy and to strengthen the policy. And really the intent of the policy is to protect tree cover in a balanced way. So the direction that basically I received, as well as in considering comments from all sides of the public, they didn't want a policy that was very restrictive. They didn't want to, inhibit the farming community, but they wanted to see South Glengarry start to do something to protect tree cover, to enhance tree cover. And so I feel this policy is a good start. And so I want to review with you a few of the changes that we've included in the policy and some of the recommendations we did receive. And you can imagine that it's really difficult to accommodate everyone's suggestions. And we received many good suggestions, and it was almost overwhelming in terms of the amount of suggestions, because it was difficult to balance, and you could see the passion in individuals' comments and in what their goals or intents were for tree cover. So a few of the items that I do want to review to kind of explain why we haven't included them in the final policy. And keep in mind, council can change this. This is just something that I've put before you in hopes that I've captured the recommendations. If I haven't, tell me, we'll fix it. It's, I'm not going to be offended at all. I want to put something before you that you're going to be happy with. So one of the recommendations that we had received and heard was the development of a township natural asset management plan, including a database of tree canopy and natural vegetation on assets on township, conservation authority, and county-owned lands. And this would also include parks and an open road allowance. So it was difficult to look at this, or to consider this, I should say, simply because of the cost to do this, the expertise required to develop and implement this type of plan. And I really felt that this needed to be reviewed and discussed by council, and direction from administration is required as to whether we should include this, or are we ready for this at this time. Another item that was recommended is, if tree removal is requested by a resident on a township open or unopened road allowance, approval should be granted in writing, and the tree removal should be completed by an approved township contractor. So I didn't include this in the policy, and I felt that this could be considered in amending bylaw 3314, which is the use of unopened road allowances. And that would then allow the general manager of infrastructure to review any tree removal on opened public road allowances and require the approval. And so that's something that we can certainly consider and address in amending that bylaw. Another area that we didn't include was when land becomes available through tax arrears, the township should consider acquiring the forested land to either maintain or to donate to the Conservation Authority or the United Counties. Not a bad suggestion, but it wasn't included is because the property must be researched carefully to determine the value, the outstanding taxes, if there's any liens. We don't always have properties that are free and clear and easy to keep, and sometimes they have to be sold to be able to recover those funds. So I think it's a good intention, but maybe not really feasible when we're dealing with tax sales. Another recommendation was undertake tree surveys on public land, including open and unopened road allowances, upon request of an abutting property owner, and the cost should be shared by the owner. I also did not include this because the likelihood of an abutting property owner willing to share the costs, in my opinion, might be really slim. I think it's a good goal, but I'm not sure that we would have property owners, or many property owners, that would be willing to share in this expense. There was also a couple things that I want to highlight about tree planting and buffers along municipal drains. And I did consult with our drainage superintendent, Gary McDonald, and Mr. McDonald informed me that many of our drainage reports actually regulate what can be adjacent to a drain. So most of the time he was letting me know that it's a minimum of 10 meters, sometimes 30 meters, where they don't want any vegetation or any landscaping features, so that they can easily access the drain, do the maintenance, and not have to worry about removing trees or hurting a tree that maybe a property owner has planted. And so we did leave that out. There was also a variety of suggestions in regards to not taxing forested lands that are greater than 5 acres. So I didn't include this specifically in the policy, as I feel that it needs to be researched further to understand the impact to the township budget, and if it can also be legally implemented under our current municipal act, and the cost to monitor it. But I'll get to our policy in a minute to explain the wording that I did put in that hopefully would capture something like this. And then there was also recommendations to remove some of the priority action items, and I didn't remove all of them that were suggested. One thing that I would like to do right now, though, is kind of talk about the comments that were included in the final draft, because we did receive some excellent feedback. Defining development was something that I saw on a few of the comments from the public. And so I added that definition and took it directly from the Provincial Policy Statement 2020, so that it's consistent with the PPS, our official plan policies, and it's easily found by the public, and also consistent with other municipalities. Another item was adding to the benefits section, and I did take the recommendation of including climate change, and we've included that in the policy. Improving the wording of several of the priority actions to be clearer, and so I can speak to that in a minute. One other item that was recommended by a few was that some of the wording that I used, like prohibit, or it was maybe too forceful to say prohibit tree removal on township-owned land, and it was brought to my attention that we do have unhealthy or hazardous trees in some of our areas that really have to be removed because they're either dying or they're going to maybe result in a liability situation. So the wording was improved to qualify that. We also included adding the Raisin Region Conservation Authority to priority action item number 5 to make sure that they were also noted as a possible land recipient, which I should have known that. Explore the creation and implementation of other tax incentive programs. So listening to some of the comments and people saying maybe property owners that have forested properties shouldn't pay taxes, it's easy to say that, but as I mentioned, a lot of research has to be done on that to make sure how we're going to do that. How do we still pay the county share of those taxes? How do we still pay the Ministry of Education share of those taxes? How does it impact our township budget even though we're not collecting it? So wording was added to explore the creation and implementation of other tax incentive programs to encourage the protection of existing forested properties and to encourage the creation of forested properties. I think that allows this council and future councils to consider exploring these opportunities, look to see what our neighbors are doing elsewhere in the province. It doesn't close the door. It opens the door for the treasurer or whoever the person responsible is to be able to do the proper research and understand the impact to our revenues and the bottom line. Another item was support property owners in their efforts to implement best management practices, including naturalized buffer strips adjacent to watercourses and the protection of riparian zones. And I think this is a good suggestion because if we have property owners that want to do this, they should be encouraged to do this. They should be supported. And then another item that was listed many times, whether it was members of council or public, that the policy should be reviewed not every 5 years, it should be reviewed more often. In looking at other policies throughout the township, it was pretty common to review once per term of council. So we did change that in the policy. I'm just going to look at the policy to see if there's anything I missed. You'll see in the policy I put every 4 years, and it would be up to council to determine, when they want to review it in their term of council. Just because the policy says that review frequency is every 4 years, it doesn't stop a member of council ever to come forward and request administration to bring forward the policy and to discuss it. That's always an option. And if we have to amend the policy, we amend the policy accordingly. Yeah, again, some of the wording that was changed as opposed to prohibit, we changed to protect. We used words more enhance, like just making it maybe more of a support type policy. I think that covers the summary in a nutshell, Mr. Mayor. And again, this is intended to be for third reading. You'll see in my staff report that council has an option to support this and approve this bylaw and policy this evening, or you can certainly give me direction for me to come back and make further changes. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Haley, for your report, and I want to thank you for all the work that you've done on this this file. It's been many years in the making, but a lot of that was out of our hands, so I certainly appreciate all your efforts, and I also appreciate members of council giving feedback to Ms. Haley to craft this document. And as she said, it is a living, breathing document, and it can be brought back at any time in the future. So that being said, I open the floor up to final comments. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Warden. And I am also very happy to see that the policies now before us for third reading. It has been a long time coming, and I do really appreciate all the work that you've done, Ms. Haley, to get us this far. I think you did a very good job of incorporating a lot of the additional feedback you received, and also capturing, like at a high level of capturing like the common themes. I think that kind of rose to the top out of all that consultation was that there is this theme of protecting agricultural practices, but also that there's this very strong theme also of protecting public lands and the tree canopy and vegetation that are on them. So just real quick, I wanted to quote two things that were said, one in the public meeting and one in the written feedback, is that if we're to take the conversation of tree canopy seriously, the township has to take the lead and set the example of conserving tree cover on properties that are publicly owned and benefit the entire community. And then the other quote I really liked was, "We need to protect public lands with the same passion that folks have for private land." So this relates back to, I was the one who put in the comment about having a database of having tree canopy and natural vegetation assets. And although maybe I swung a bit too far in terms of the complexity of what I was suggesting, I think one of the issues we have is that a lot of what we own, including on open road allowances, is not understood by the public. People it's not out there. And so I think it's very important to have a database. However it starts, it could be very, skeleton and then build it out. But I think it's important that we have some sort of database of the tree canopy and the natural vegetation assets that we have within the township. I think that is something that is important. And I would say that I think, to me, that's really the only thing that I would add to the document. In terms of next steps, though, I do think a natural next step is that we need to look at the bylaw 3314 and the unopened road allowance. Mm-hmm. And, maybe some of the comments that were fed do fit more into looking at that in terms of abutting landowners and clearing land and having agreement between the township and abutting landowners on where that line actually is, I think is important. And certainly if I'm around next term, and if any folks here are still around next term, the point about exploring the creation and implementation of other tax incentive programs to encourage protecting forested properties, I'm all in for whoever wants to put some horsepower behind that. That'd be something I'd very much like to look into doing, see how can we change policy to be able to encourage that with a financial incentive for property owners. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments. Councillor Lang, then Councillor McDonough.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. Thank you, Ms. Haley, for the report. Most of what I asked for, I think, is in there. So thank you. And I think that there was more than one of us that asked for the same things on something. So it was natural that some of those things would be in there. The tax one was a big one for me. I would really like to see us, like right now, if you go out and prove that you're managing your forest, you can get the 25% tax rate. If you don't prove you're managing your forest, you don't get it. And it doesn't make sense to me, because an unmanaged forest is just as good for the environment as a managed one. There's no reason that they should have to prove that they're managed to get that tax rate. So that, and I don't know what the answer is, but I think we need to be working towards that. And I'm glad that's in here, that we are able to explore that possibility. And I think we need to keep going on with that. The road allowance one, I think, well, I don't think it needs to be in here necessarily. I do think it's time we start working on that. I think it better be a priority maybe of the next term, is because right now we're reacting all the time. There's somebody either using the road allowance, or somebody wanting to use the road allowance, or somebody wanting to buy a portion of the road allowance, the green roads, and we're reacting. We don't have anything in place, any kind of a plan of what we'd like to do, where we'd like to go with this. So I think that council need to have some public meetings, see what the public would like us to do, and get doing that. But the way it is, I can support this tree canopy thing, and thank you for getting something there that I think we can all support.
Thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just say thank you to Mrs. Haley as well. I believe I know there's a lot of work that went into this, and I know we've all had our fair share of time put into our comments, and I think I don't know how you did it, but there's a real special kind of lining up of both sides of the equation. I think they came together here, and I don't think there's anyone who could be upset with this policy looking at it, whether you're from, say, mine and Martin side of the industry, and then other people who have another perspective on it. So I just think at this point, I think we've come to a really good compromise when it comes to having a good working document. So I'd like to thank you for that, and I'd agree most of my comments were taken care of, so I guess maybe there was a few more people around the table with the same ones. Thank you.
Councillor Luck.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to say thank you to Ms. Haley for putting this document together. I know it was very time consuming to go through all of our comments, incorporating them, changing them, and then I think what Councillor McDonnell said was bang on, that you captured both sides of it, and as well as I do think that we need to revisit the bylaw 3314. I think it is important. I think that would be my only comment from all of this. That doesn't actually necessarily relate to your document, but as a side note, thank you.
All righty, so that's good. I'm going to read this. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 67-2022 be received and that bylaw 18-2019, being a bylaw to establish a tree canopy and natural vegetation policy, be read a third and final time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council this 16th day of May 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is passed. Thank you very much. And moving on to other business, 7B, Char-Lan Rec Center advertisements. Ms. Servage.
Okay, good evening, Council. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This report is regarding the arena advertisements here at the Char-Lan Recreation Center. So in this report, I have outlined the current advertising operations. You will see that currently Junior B Rebels secures all the ads in the facility, and their income from each type of ad is outlined in the report. So the only amount that you don't see the revenue coming from is the 24 player ads. So this is approximately $400 per player board. So myself and CAO Mills met with Junior B at the end of April to discuss these operations. And at this meeting, they provided their financial summaries. Junior B has expressed that this income allows their team to continue to operate and maintain their registration fees at a level that's competitive within the league. So there's a few reasons why I'm bringing this information report forward tonight. So recently there has been requests and conversations regarding the advertisement operations at this facility. You can see the joint letter attached to this report from Char-Lan Minor Hockey and the Char-Lan Skating Club. I know that some council members have also approached me regarding this as well. Another reason is the current agreement with Junior B is quite outdated, so as I think it was brought to council back in 2014. Lastly, the current arena renovations also provides us an opportunity to clean up the facility and make any adjustments. So as I mentioned, there is a joint letter from Char-Lan Minor Hockey and the Char-Lan Skating Club inquiring about the advertisements. You'll see in their letter that they're interested in splitting the funds equally between the three organizations, with each of them obtaining their own ads on their own. And then there's also mention of splitting the profits the three-way, but then continuing to have Junior B obtain the ads, and then the skating club and minor hockey getting a portion of those funds. So that's the information regarding the ads. I just want to mention something that's important regarding the dasher boards that have advertisements on them. So the boards that have advertisements on them, the puck board that's behind them is a different width than the puck board that does not have advertisements on them, just so then it's flush all the way around. So I've been working with the dasher board company, and we've gone ahead with the design option of allowing for 30 board ads. So it's similar to what we have now, and it's a similar design as the same position as what we had before. So this had to be planned ahead of time, as the dasher board company had to order the puck board. Not saying that in the future we don't have board ads all the way around, but just for now, this is what we've purchased and what we're moving forward with. We've also reached out to neighboring municipalities to find out how their board ad operations work at their facilities, all of which they have responded that the township secures and maintains their own board ads, as well as receive all associated profits. However, some arenas that do have junior teams do provide other opportunities to showcase their sponsors, such as like the player boards above the bench or a display in the lobby. So there's other opportunities for that. So regardless of whether the township continues to have organizations involved or not, there are some changes that we would like to make moving forward once we establish the updated advertising operations. The first one would just be a proper schedule regarding advertisements. You know, the renewal letter goes out in the summer months, the new board ads, if there are any, comes in through the summer. Not saying that we can't get new ones throughout the winter season, or if a new company comes in and they want to advertise, we can definitely accommodate that, and our facility operators can do that. But just if we had some sort of schedule within the summer, that would be great. Another change is that any advertisers that do not renew need to pick up their ads, just so that we're not storing them for any length of time. And now that we're doing an arena renovation, I think this provides us with the opportunity to clean up the arena portion of the facility, specifically the layout of the boards behind the players' benches, just by providing a proper layout and measurements of these ads, just so that it's, you know, consistent behind each bench. I've also outlined in the report that there are opportunities for ads in the facility, such as on the ice resurfacer, so on the Zamboni, or additional in-ice logos on the ice. At the bottom of the report, I also outlined the ice rental fees paid to the township from all three organizations, as well as their average hours rented per week. So at this point, I'm basically seeking direction from council with regards to the advertisements. If organizations continue to be involved, then proper agreements will need to be established. And if the township is going to take over the ads, a proper fees bylaw will have to be created. Once I have an understanding of how council would like to move forward with this, I will come prepared with a proper staff report in order for council to make a decision. I also want to mention that staff is currently looking into the bar operations at Tartan Hall. Ideally, we will come back to council with a full agreement with Junior B that addresses the board ads and the bar operations. But for now, we're just discussing the advertisements. So I'll hand it over to council now if you would like to discuss or have any questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the report, Ms. Servage. I'll hand it over to the floor. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you very much. Through you, Mayor Warden. Thank you very much, Ms. Servage, for putting together this report in response to the, is that me? In response to the letter from Char-Lan Minor Hockey and the Skating Club. I think speaking at a high level, I mean, this is advertising dollars. So advertising is about getting people's eyes on the advertisements, and the reason these ads have value is because these organizations bring in eyes to see, you know, to see what's on these ads. I mean, I play hockey on Sunday nights, and no one's coming to watch us play hockey. But when it comes to minor hockey and the skating club and the junior B, people are coming to watch. So to me, I think, you know, that these are linked. And I think regardless of what model, I definitely think that these user groups should be participating in the advertising revenue from what's being sold inside the arena. In terms of how it's done, there's probably some different models that are like more complicated or less complicated. I'm maybe not married to one or the other, but I do think, you know, a lot of our most successful facilities or programs is where, you know, the participants have quote unquote skin in the game. So where they're actively involved in doing it. So whether that means in terms of selling the advertisements or not, like I think that provides a level of, you know, engagement and ownership in the program. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, Ms. Servage, on how, if that can be facilitated or if that's too complicated.
There are, through you,
Go
Mr.
ahead,
Mayor. There are options to definitely, you know, they could split it up. If, you know, there's 30 board ads, each organization could take 10 and they could obtain their own ads. From an administrative standpoint, obviously that's more coordinating with staff and the organizations. But yeah, there's other opportunities. Like I mentioned too, there's ads that could go on the Zamboni or in the ice. So there's other spots besides just the boards to be able to have the ads as well. So, I mean, really it's just up for discussion who council would like to see get these funds and who is going to search out these businesses for the ads. I mean, Junior B obviously already does that, and they already have secured quite a few businesses to advertise. So, yeah, I mean, there's different ways that we could split it up, and then that would just be on administration, staff-wise, to coordinate that. So.
Okay, Councillor McDonell, then Councillor Lang, and then Councillor Luck.
Thank you through you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'll start from a high level look at it. The last thing I want to see is the municipality being involved in obtaining sponsorship for our own arena. For one, it's not a good look. I don't think I agree with Councillor, or with Deputy Mayor Jaworski, that all of our user groups that are we'll call our most successful user groups are the ones that are heavily involved in the space they are using, whether it's Martintown, Banesville, Williamstown, you can go down the list. We have some extremely successful groups. And it tends to be the ones that are heavily involved within their own, whether it's during the initial building or whether it's just in operations. I think the absolute solution to this is the stakeholders have to be involved as far as minor hockey, skating, and the Rebels together. And I don't know if that's mediated at a table with all three groups, mediated by the township. I think the best way to come to a constructive and fair deal for everyone. I just don't see going back and forth around this table for us. I don't think it's our decision as to how this is broken up. There's an initial, I don't know that there's a true formal agreement in place. I could be wrong on that, but there's we'll call it the status quo right now as of what's been going on, and how it's been organized over the past years. That has been what we've had, and if we're looking to change that now, I don't think it's council's decision. At the end of the day, yes, it is, but how that's structured and how that starts to, whether it's a 5-year plan to get to full equity or whether it's, a 2-year plan or however that's structured, I think that has to be negotiated around a table with the shareholders and the stakeholders within those organizations. I don't say a 30-person meeting, 6 people around a table and 2 township staff, and I think we could come to some really good ideas in a hurry. I just don't think it's a decision for this council to be making.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you, Ms. Servage, for the report. I guess we've known this sort of thing is coming. I'd like to thank Junior B Rebels for what they've done in the past and getting this up and running. There was no ads on the boards for years and years and years, and I don't know why I wasn't on council then, but it was just, we weren't going to allow any. Maybe it was for worried about conflicts, I'm not sure. But Rebels did all the legwork, initiated this, got it up and running, and I think we can see the dollar benefits of it. But I think it is time to start sharing it. I don't think it can only be the Rebels that are taking in all the money anymore. But I do think we as council and as South Glengarry staff need to take ownership of our arena. We can't just allow, it to go without us having a hand in it and being involved. So I don't know the exact right answer maybe, but be interesting to see what comments come up and what people would like to see done. But I think, and you've already started this with your meeting, but we need to take some ownership of it. The one thing I would like to make sure is that if we take full ownership of it, that the revenues don't just go into the general pot and disappear. I'd like there to be some accounting of what the revenues are from the advertising, and that gets split among the 3 user groups. Something open so that everybody can see who's getting, what percentage and how much was brought in, if they bring in, $30,000 and then it's split however we decide it should be split. I don't know that it should be a third when, some of them are complete nonprofit, some of them are run as a business. Some are using $80,000 worth of, $80,000 worth of ice time compared to 18. I'm not saying it should be a third, but I think we need to have those discussions. But I do think we should take ownership of the arena and of the boards and make sure that that money does go back in to offset people's cost. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Luck?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think everyone's kind of resonated my thoughts. I don't think that we should be getting any sort of benefit from this other than releasing it back to the 3 shareholders. I am kind of curious about the history on, was it just as Councillor Lang said, that it was just the Junior Bs just kind of amalgamated and started up, and that's why they had ownership of all the costs, like profits?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I know that I came across a memo that came to council back in 2014, and it had discussed that I think in the past it was divided where Junior B would get 70% of the profits and the township got 30. And then that memo was basically converting it so that Junior B would get 100%. So it's kind of historical that they have been doing this for a long time, since the report I found from 2014. How it was established at the very beginning, I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's how we are here, where we are today.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to agree with Councillor Lang. I think that I certainly support the junior Bs. I get a phone call from Sandra every fall, and I support all local businesses. So I like Councillor Lang's approach. I do think that the township should be managing the program, but with the funds being reverted back to the users. So those are my comments for tonight, and I thank you very much for your report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next item, 7BB, another update in regards to the arena. Ms. Servich.
Yep. Okay, thank you. It's okay.
Yeah, just information on it. She got her direction.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this report is basically providing an update regarding the Char-Lan Recreation Center arena floor and dashboard project. So as you can see in the report, Bradley Contracting has removed the boards, glass, and floor. They've also created the subgrade, prepped the apron slab, and have surveyors on site to ensure the surface is level. So now, during the demolition process, cracks in the piers were discovered under the structural support columns on the east side of the building. These were only revealed once the concrete floor was completely removed. Both EVB Engineering and Bradley Contracting acted on this as soon as they could, with EVB providing drawings to address the issue and Bradley's coordinating to have the proper trades on site to fix the piers. So, however, though, this was not something that could be fixed overnight. So I'll just pull up the photo to... just so that you can kind of see what I'm describing here. So there was engineering involved, obviously, and then footings had to be installed for the structural support. So these footings down here didn't exist before, but we needed something for the structural beams to be supported by. And then the structural supports were installed. The old pier concrete, which would have been in here, that was cracked, was removed and then repoured. Once it cured, they were able to take down the structural support beams. So this item will be around $58,000. It was necessary to fix for structural and safety concerns. We do have a contingency cost incorporated in the project budget, and this does fit within that contingency budget. Thankfully, with this being on the east wall, Bradley's was able to continue working on the remainder of the flooring, the remainder of the project, while prepping the apron slab, leveling the surface, etc. But as mentioned in the report, this solution took 26 working days. Therefore, it is predicted that the opening will be delayed. You will see that the original completion date was August 25th, with the new completion date set for September 22nd. We require just shy of 2 weeks to prep the ice, so that leaves us with an opening date of October 6th. So I want to emphasize that Bradley's is trying to make up the time, and they're doing everything they can to try and shorten this delay. They have been great to deal with through this process, and they're always keeping us updated on the project. We know they're wanting to open this arena as much as we do. But as of right now, this is the timeline we have been provided. So an item that wasn't mentioned in this report, as this is something that was just come to my attention late last week, is the current construction strike happening right now with the Carpenters Union. So Bradley's is a non-union company, so there's no issues with regards to their trades, people getting in here and getting work done. But obviously Bradley's has outside contractors for certain items. one being the pump truck that will pour the apron slab. So the company that will be doing this is unionized, and they're currently on strike right now. So this may also cause a delay that's out of our control. I'm gonna leave it at that with this union delay. I don't want to make any assumptions about what this is going to cause. But I just want to note this, as this may be another possible delay that's completely out of our hands. So also at the end of this report, I outlined some foundation cracks that were pointed out during the construction. Our engineer, Greg from EVB, put together a memo that regarding these issues so that we can keep them on file and address them when necessary. So it is recommended that we expose the east wall foundation and repair the foundation cracking, as well as create proper drainage, as there isn't any on that east wall. So it was noted in the memo that these repairs, that when these repairs are addressed, it won't affect the work that we're completing right now, as it will be completed from the outside of the building. So we will plan to do our budget research and bring this item forward at the 2023 budget discussions. But as it is recommended, we address it within 1 to 2 years. So we don't need to address it at this point right now. Lastly, so before I hand it over to council for any questions, I just want to mention that I have been in communication with North Glengarry. They do plan to open the Glengarry Sports Palace in September. I have emailed out our ICE user groups with a project update and also provided a contact for North Glengarry if they wish to book the ice for the first couple weeks of the season. We'll continue to keep our users as up to date as possible on this so that they can plan accordingly for the updated season. So I'll leave it open now for council if you have any questions regarding the project.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Servige, for your report. I certainly appreciate the updates, and as we go along, when you're working on a 50-year-old building, it's kind of anticipated. So is there any question or comments of council? Deputy Mayor Jaworski, then Councillor McDonnell.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Warden, and thank you so much, Ms. Servige, for bringing us this update. And I know that you are following this extremely closely, and and we appreciate that, because certainly that'll help us keep this going as quickly as it can. My question is, with regards to this new date, if I understand correctly, the new completion date that was provided from the folks doing the work. As I recall, the contract had like a cost penalty for delay. Does this mean, is that now the new date after which there might be a penalty? Or is it different? Thanks.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I believe the liquidation damages that were included within the tender document would be applying to this delay. I'd have to go back and double check the wording, but I believe that it applies to the delay that we're dealing with now.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McDonnell.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. No, I was just going to say thank you for your report tonight. And I was very pleasantly surprised. Well, I was very happy to hear you'd already advised the user groups. Sorry, I've had a long week. And that you'd already contacted North Glengarry. That was going to be my first question. And just that we look at elsewhere, because there's 3 large user groups, as we know, that'll be looking for quite a bit of ice time. And so will North Glengarry have that same issue. So maybe pointing a few in other directions as well to try and spread them out as much as we can to get as much ice in for them, whether it's the Benson Center or others. Thank you.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Thank you for the report. And we appreciate the updates. And we knew this was going on, but I wasn't sure. I didn't realize that it was 26 days of, but I'm hoping that you say they're trying to make up the time. You did say they were able to continue work in the other parts of the arena, so it doesn't sound like the whole 26 days was lost. So hopefully, I'm hoping they've put their worst case scenario in, because they put basically 26 days of delay. And if they were able to do some work during that time, it shouldn't be a full 26 delay. So, you know, if you've got a good working relationship, keep with it and push them and see what you can get done. And because it would be nice not to have to, you know, it's hard on the user groups to have to start somewhere else and then come back. And they've just gone through 2 years of on again, off again with COVID. So if you can manage to make it work.
I'm sure she'll make it make it work. All right, CEO Mills.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So of note, the 3 user groups are actually here tonight. And we did actually start this project the day we took the ice out. So there was no delay in that, so people need to know that. But I think council needs to consider, if we do run into other things, and we need to ask the user groups to go to more than one other municipality, that there's a difference in cost for ice. And I'm not bringing that up to ask council to spend more money and or consider subsidization, but it has been done in the past with other rinks where it had to shut down or be shut. But also, we're gonna get asked the question anyway, so we may as well discuss it now. Or at least put it out there and we can bring a report back to you about what we're looking at. We'll work closely with the user groups and we'll find out soon enough if they call another municipality what the cost is. So certainly in the city of Cornwall, it's more. And it's a little more maybe in a few of the other neighboring ones, but given the circumstances, I just wanted to put that out there before we get too far down the road and you all start getting calls, because this is now public information. And we have hundreds of people that are using the rink that are gonna be potentially delayed for a month or more.
Okay, thank you for those comments, Mr. Mills. Councillor McDowell?
I won't make too big a pot shot at you, Mr. Mayor. It's too bad we didn't have ownership in another arena. No, I'd be interested in looking at some kind of financial subsidization if it came down to that. And we were going to be looking at major costs going to some of these user groups. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Jaworski?
Through you, Mayor Warden, I'll second what Councillor McDonnell said, minus the pot shot.
No worries. Okay, great. So thank you very much. Good discussion. And again, thank you for your updates, Ms. Servage. Moving on to 7DH, Williamstown Fair Request. I'm not sure who asked to have that pulled forward. Deputy Mayor Jaworski? Put your mic on, sorry, just so folks online.
You're right. Thank you, Councillor Lang, for putting that over. So the Fair Board, this is a letter saying it's a formal request to use the peanut line during the week of, prior to and on Fair Weekend. So I just wanted to make sure that we pulled that, we acknowledge that, and I believe that is our common practice.
100%.
But I wanted to ensure that that we proceeded with that as per common practice.
Yep.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, you want to comment?
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor, the Deputy Mayor is correct. We typically approve this request, and we can respond to the Fair Board tomorrow and let them know that they can go ahead and use that as per past practice.
Don't feel like getting a bunch of call from the Fair Board members, so good stuff. All right. So moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Sam McDonnell, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information only. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Rebecca Luck, be it resolved that Council convene to close session at 8:08 p.m. to discuss the following items under Section 239(2) of the Municipal Act, 2001. 2, a meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being discussed is D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically HR matter and collective agreement, E, litigation or potential litigation, specifically memo, official plan, appeal, and there was another item added under that was E, litigation for potential litigation. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you all for coming to the meeting, and we will see you on the other side of the closed session.